Welcome to our June What's What? Sun Safety. So the topic today is they say stay out of the sun, but we live in Florida, so I'm going to shine some light on how you can enjoy being in the sun safely. My name is Stephanie Bogdan, Fitness Program Manager here at the Mendel Recreation Center Fitness Center. So today I only have two main topics to discuss. The first one is I'm going to answer the question, what are the harmful effects of the sun's rays? And then of course, how can you protect yourself? So let's get started. Ultraviolet rays, UV rays. We've heard about these, our sunscreens have them, our sunglasses talk about them, but what exactly are ultraviolet rays? Well, they are a form of electromagnetic radiation. When we hear the word radiation, that's not usually a good word to hear. So you can see from this picture here, it shows the three different types. That means the three different wavelengths of UV rays. There's A, B, and C. Our ozone, our atmosphere, actually blocks UVC rays, which is why you don't see it mentioned most often when protecting yourself against the sun, because our atmosphere actually does that for us. It's the UVA and the UVB ones that do penetrate our atmosphere, and that's what we need to protect ourselves against. So diving a little deeper into UV rays' harmful effects. Bullet point number one, and we all know this one, that it damages the cells and the blood vessels. So what does that mean? How does that do that? I included this image here to give you a visual of exactly how the UVA and B rays damage our cells and blood vessels. So you can see that it penetrates through the surface of the skin. The UVA goes a little bit deeper than the UVB, but they both penetrate into the skin. So if you think about it as over time, it's getting, the cells, the blood vessels are getting hit over and over and over again with the wavelengths of these radiation waves. Over time, that's what causes damage. If you're constantly getting beat up, you're going to have some type of result, and the result is damage. And then I have a fact here. According to the International Journal of Molecular Sciences 2013, UV radiation is actually considered a complete carcinogen. And that means it is both a mutagen and a non-specific damaging agent. So it has properties to grow tumors and to enhance the growth of tumors. So promote the growth of tumors. So it's pretty dangerous. And then another harmful effect of UV rays is sunburn. We've all made that mistake. We've been in the sun a little bit too long and we've gotten the red, painful skin. Sometimes it even blisters. So sunburn is an effect of the UV rays. UV rays also dry out the skin, and that's what causes wrinkles and discoloration. So you've heard the word sunspots, liver spots, sometimes patches of dry, rough skin. That all can be due to UV ray radiation. And then the big one is over a long period of time, exposure to UV rays can cause skin cancer, melanomas. So that's probably the number one reason why we do want to protect ourselves and make sure that we're playing safely in the sun. And then I did want to include one other harmful effect, just because it could affect some of us, is that if you're using medications, some medications make your skin more sensitive to the UV light. So some oral and topical medicines like antibiotics, birth control pills, and anything that has benzoyl peroxide in it makes your skin more sensitive to the sun. And usually if it's an antibiotic, it'll say on your bottle, there's an extra sticker that they put on, like don't operate machinery, it causes drowsiness. There'll be a picture of a sun, and it'll say stay out of the sun if you're taking this medication. So make sure you check all of your prescription medications, and even over-the-counter medications and makeups may also have some of that benzoyl peroxide in it. So anything that has to do with acne, you want to make sure you stay out of the sun. Okay, so now that we mentioned all the bad things that can happen, let's talk about how to protect yourself, because it's super easy to protect yourself from the sun. So bullet point number one, no brainer, wear sunblock. And there is a difference between the word sunblock and the word sunscreen. I didn't put sunscreen there. They're both great. But just so you are aware of the difference, sunblock is a physical defense. So sunblock is the white chalky stuff that you see sometimes on people that it just doesn't rub in, because that is meant to sit on top of the skin and act as a physical barrier. Sunscreen is a chemical defense. So that absorbs into your body, you rub it in, you can't see it, but then once it's in there, that is what absorbs the UV A and B rays. So they're both equally great. Whichever one you prefer, go to town. The SPF of sunblock and sunscreen is important. The sun protection factor, that's what it stands for. We want one 30 or greater. 30 or greater. And then again, you also want to remember to reapply it. So not just in the morning and then you're good to go. You want to reapply it every 2 hours, especially if you're working out, sweating, or if you're in the water. So minimum every 2 hours. If you're indoors and you're not really doing anything, you can go a few more hours. Before I talk about the next bullet point, I did make a note. I wanted to just, as a side comment, let you know that there was a study recently published as early, I believe, as June 2nd of this year, and it talked about benzene that was found in sunscreen products. It was found in all types of skincare products, so sunscreens, sunblocks, after skincare lotions, and it came up as a carcinogen. So benzene is a known carcinogen, and it came up in 78 of almost 300 products. So it's not an ingredient that companies are consciously dumping in there without telling you. This was, it was found by accident. It accidentally contaminated all of these products. So just as a side note, you may want to go to cbsnews.com, and in that article, there's a link to reference which sunscreens and sunblocks were found to have it and that were not found to have it. So I just want to put that out there. Okay, moving on to another way to protect yourself is by limiting exposure to the sun. Now, no one's saying don't go outside. Go outside, enjoy nature, enjoy the sun, but limiting exposure will certainly help protect yourself. The sun's rays, the UVB and UVA rays, are strongest between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. So maybe if you can, try to avoid going out during those times to help limit the exposure to the strongest rays of the sun. And then wear protective clothing and sunglasses. Protective clothing can be anything from long pants to long sleeves to materials that have UVA and UVB protective material in them. So like rash guards. If you're swimming in a pool or you're going to the beach, it's always great to cover as much of your skin as possible to protect yourself from the rays. Sunglasses are super important because your eyes are just as susceptible to the rays as the rest of your body. So getting in the habit of wearing sunglasses all year round. If we tend to start up good habits and keep them going strong, then we won't ever have issues creep up later in life, like the long-term exposure issues. Not saying it won't ever happen, but good to protect yourself. Sunglasses are great because it not only does it prevent glare, but it also helps to minimize your risk of cataracts and other eye degenerative diseases. Regular skin checks. So this won't actually protect you from the rays, but it certainly helps in this list to keep you safe. So having at least an annual appointment with your dermatologist to just go through everything, make sure nothing looks abnormal, and to, stay abreast of what's going on with your skin so that you can be mindful of any changes or to stay on top of things that need to keep an eye on. And then this should be a no-brainer, but I'm putting it out there just in case we're stuck in our ways. Do not use tanning beds. Just don't do it, ever. Or artificial sources of UV radiation. So sometimes they sell lamps, they're called sun lamps, and you can put them in your room, and just not good for the skin. Protect yourself by not using tanning beds or artificial UV lights. Okay, So we talked about the harmful effects. We talked about how to protect yourself. But I always stay in the shade. Great, that's good. Shade is great. However, scientifically, we cannot prove that staying in the shade will 100% protect you from UVA and UVB rays because it's light. They're electromagnetic waves. They reflect and refract. So even if you're directly under the shade of a tree or a building that can physically block one angle, it could reflect off of the sand. If you're under an umbrella, it could reflect off of water. Even certain building materials, it can reflect off and still hit your skin at a different angle. So it's great to seek shade, but just know that that shouldn't be your one and only form of protection from the UVA and UVB rays. And then the other thing we always hear when talking about the sun is, but what about my vitamin D? My doctor says I have low vitamin D. I'm in New York half the year and I have low vitamin D. Well, according to the World Health Organization, all of you need is 5 to 15 minutes of sun exposure 2 to 3 times a week, and you're good. That's not a lot, especially if you live in a sunny climate. So it is recommended that you get your vitamin D from your dietary sources. So foods that have vitamin D in them naturally or that are supplemented. So I put a few examples right here of foods that have the highest amount of vitamin D, which are fatty fish, so like your salmon, fish liver oil, so that's a supplement, right? You can take it as a pill form, and then fortified. So we've learned how to add vitamin D into beverages like milk. Even most of our orange juices have vitamin D and calcium fortified in them. So that's the suggestion. And just as a side note, the FDA has not cleared or approved any indoor tanning device for producing vitamin D. So if you're still trying to argue with me that you want to go tanning in the tanning bed, it's not going to fly. Okay, there was a lot of information shared today and so many great resources. I wanted to put them on a slide of their own so that you can check these out in a little bit more detail if you have interest and when you have time. So I mentioned that CBS news article about the carcinogen found in some of the sunscreens. It's listed right here. So when we share this, I'll try to zoom in maybe. I don't know if Danny can zoom in on that. If not, you can always send us an email. I'll send you the email address. Yep, so you can check that link out if you're interested in that study. And then of course, I mentioned the International Journal of Molecular Sciences. A lot of information came from the US Food and Drug Administration, so the FDA website, the American Cancer Society website, the CDC website, and PubMed all contributed to this information that we presented to you today. So feel free to go a little bit deeper on your own if you want to. And then if you still have questions, you can email us at mandelfitness@townofpalmbeach.com, or you can just call us and we're happy to chat. 561-227-6363. And our next topic is the immune system, which we should be posting by the end of July. So thanks for tuning in.